Okay.
Here is Craig.
Now recording.
Welcome to the YangGang Roundtable. It is Sunday, January 10th, 2021. I have Ariel, 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐿𝐮𝐫𝐚, Karen, Mia, myself, and our special guest 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐮 with us here today. 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐮 is on the 30th day of a hunger strike. So thank you for doing something to make the world notice what's happening, to make the world think about poverty. We're all very concerned for your health. We care about you. But at the same time, thank you. Thank you for your effort. I want to acknowledge this effort first and foremost. So thank you. I think it's very noble. So with that, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐮, and I am trying to raise awareness for the current, state of the world, and trying to get people to realize that a lot of people are suffering right now and can't make ends meet and are actually, starving, and they're not doing this because they want, they're not doing this. They're doing it involuntarily, and we got to make sure that a lot of the Congress knows what's going on. That they do things.
It's okay. I mean, you have not eaten in 30 days. I'm sure you're very scatterbrained. I mean, anyone would be. Yeah. So it's okay. You just take a beat, relax, take all the time you need. I fasted for 99 hours one time, was the maximum. And I was losing my mind several times over. So very, very impressed that you're able to do what you're doing.
If I skip
and
lunch,
I can't imagine what the headspace is like. You skip lunch and you're like, see, I actually, I only eat once. I try to eat only once every day. But I usually end up with I eat after 5. I usually end up eating for 5 or 6 hours. But ideally, I would only eat one meal a day. I feel like that's the healthiest thing for my personal metabolism. And it runs its way outside the Overton window. My whole life, I was told if I do that, I would die. But I was very sick for a very long time. When I started doing that, I got healthy. So, you hear stories like that all the time in America. And I think ultimately the takeaway is because capitalism has provided more perverse incentives for our medical system than there are good incentives. So you have a good chance of just getting bad advice forever and getting worse and worse and worse. Anyway, this is kind of an offshoot. We're really getting off track here. Sorry, guys. I just hogged the mic. Somebody else say something.
Viz, I would like to know, it's been 30 days. How are you managing to stay healthy enough to be standing today at all? I can't imagine doing that for that long. What's your secret to being able to do that without literally being dead?
I have this meal replacement. It's called 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐻, and it's supposed to be nutritionally complete, but it does taste terrible when you start it. So it's obviously not something for everybody. But I've been using that. I had to up it last week. I had to actually take a little more in because I wasn't feeling well. I wasn't able to do the things like take care of my children or clean the house or do anything like that. But I'm starting to get even more worried because I've been having to do more things for my job, and I've been not able to be as clear-headed as I normally would be. You noticed when I was first talking, I wasn't even able to complete the introduction because I was just oh my God, I get so dizzy and brain fog is intense. But the shakes have been helping me to stay on track, so I can stay at least remotely healthy and not just shut down immediately.
Yeah, well, you look mostly healthy. You are a little bit pale today. I hope that you make sure to get enough that you do stay alive with us, because we don't want you to actually, starve. That's bad. But I know I'm so worried about you. I'm sorry. I'm worried about you.
I'm worried about me too. I really wanted to do this to show people that we don't have to just be at home and be upset, that we can organize and we can show the world, or show at least our own government that, hey, we're so upset that we're willing to do this, so that you take notice and then do something, and not just give us stupid excuses of, oh, well we would like to help but we can't help, or we don't have the money suddenly to help the people. Like that's what's making me upset today, is that, you know, they have money for everything else. They have money to give to other countries and money to build walls, but they don't have money to bail out the people to make sure everybody can pay their bills and stay in their homes. You know?
Well, here's the interesting thing. The one person who's against the 2000, and we know that the 2000 is just a one-time thing that we're hoping is going to be turned into UBI. There's one Democrat, Joe Manchin, who is like against it, and that is just unbelievable to me. We should be concentrating all of our efforts and getting an explanation for this, because this is absolutely grotesque. So all the ones who do support it, we should take note, and all the ones who don't, we should take note and put
Yeah,
pressure on the ones who don't and encourage the ones who do.
I agree.
I wanted to welcome our friend Faye into the podcast with us. 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐮 and I did a earlier live stream from the YangGang report live, and I know that's confusing for a lot of people because it sounds a lot like the YangGang Roundtable, but the YGRL is on Facebook, and 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐮 was able to come on her 12th day when she was a lot more lucid and able to talk more. And we talked about, why would you want to do a fast when it's a very personal decision, first of all, and without great big media, blitz around it, how is it going to continue to, what kind of effect can you create as a single person, right? Without being Gandhi, without having, the entire media circus around a performative type of fast. And also, yeah, go ahead. You want to talk about that?
That's the hard part, is that, sorry, I had to turn off my camera for a second, but yeah, no, that's the difficult part, is that I know that I'm nobody. I know that I'm not a celebrity. I'm not somebody who, has any sort of ranking or anything like that. So a lot of people were also saying, like, you're doing this and nobody's noticing. You're doing this and you're just hurting yourself. But the way I feel about it is that, it really just, you can't really kill an idea. As soon as you do something, even if one person notices, that sometimes is enough to get people talking, to go, hey, wow, she's that upset, or they're that upset that they're willing to go through this for that long. Like, maybe we should pay attention. Maybe we should notice, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you were willing to do something very bold with your life and your body, right? And I want to say that, like, no matter what you're saying about people taking notice, they do. They really do. And if anything, what you are doing is inspiring, right? To help other people be like, okay, well, if she can do that, I can maybe do this small little thing, right? Maybe they finally take that first tiny little baby step because you inspired them. So, like, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Some of the other things that came up during that podcast was that we had Pastor Stephen Broyers, who is also a friend of our podcast, who has been on our podcast before, come and talk about his participation in it and how he ended it early. But it's all about your own personal will to make something change. And that's something that Shale has talked about quite a bit on our podcast. He's worried that, now that some of the good things have happened, we're going to get Trump out of office. We're going to, do some, we've gotten control of the Senate, possibly with the people who've been elected in Georgia, that now people are just going to forget. We're just going to forget about, doing the other things that are really important for us and making sure that these policies pass. Now, your goal originally was $2,000 stimulus check. If that came out, if that was on its way, you were going to stop. But I think 30 days is quite a long time. So have you considered maybe this is the time for your own health? Because we're not looking at a hunger fast for all the way to starvation. Like, we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, because after the research that I did also, and more into hunger strikes and how they were conducted and everything, they did take breaks and they would recoup and then they would come back and attack it again. And I figured that, I didn't ever want to stop it too soon because I didn't want, I guess I really didn't want people to go like, oh, see, it failed. You know, I didn't want it to be regarded as a fail, but at the same time, I want people to know that this is absolutely an option, but I don't want it to be a, like you said, a starvation thing. I don't want people to die. I don't want people to get hurt. And now that I have a lot of eyes on this, I don't want to encourage anyone to harm themselves. And that's why I definitely am considering maybe we, introduce food back into my diet and maybe take a break and then come back at it later.
Yeah. I'd say maybe, if you take a break, take, maybe 30, 60 days off. And then when you come back with like at least a dozen other people and do it high profile, make a YouTube channel just for you guys that have you and a dozen other people post all the time during the hunger strike, I'll help you organize that if you want.
We actually have, she
Okay,
has
we'll do
a group of supporters numbering at least in the dozen. And many of them have participated in the fast with her in a different, maybe in their own comfort zone.
Yeah.
So we have at least one person who's fasting once a day. Once a week, 1 day a week. We have, I'm going to figure out my own way of participating I've downloaded a intermittent fasting tracking type of app to help me track what's happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, my son needs me. And that's
okay.
actually the thing that is most surprising to me is that 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐬 is a mom of 2 beautiful children. Is that correct?
Yeah, here's Jason
And-
and then John.
And
Yeah.
luckily you do have a wonderful partner who is willing to support you in this process. I was wondering how the family was doing. Yeah, it would be really hard for me to prepare food for my family and not be eating myself.
Yeah. Take,
I'm sorry, say again?
I don't know what they said.
Say,
I was saying, well, anyone who said you don't have enough clout, anyone who said, oh, look at you, you're not famous, no one's going to pay attention, come back to them and say, now there are 12 of us, now there are 50 of us, now there are 100 of us, and we're all documenting it here. So what do you think? Do we have enough clout pooled together? And, see what they say to that. So that's really, I think, where you should go. How long do you think you would need to recover? 60 days, 30 days, something? I don't know why. I feel like that's... So because we don't have time to wait a long time either. It's just, I feel like I'm speaking frantically, but I just want something to happen. We all just want something to happen.
Yeah, I would be sad if it takes another 30 to 60 days for them to give us checks, right? Like, especially if it's that much, right? Like, come on, guys, get your act together. We should not have to do
Well,
this.
even if they do, still do it again because they won't be recurring. There's going to be a reason to do this until we get the UBI. So we'll plan to do it no matter what. We get the checks or not.
I have another question about the mechanics
where
of the
I
hunger
chose-
strike, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, sure.
I was just curious. I'm sure you, before you started, had an emergency plan on hand and like contacts with your doctor or, that kind of thing. What kind of precautions do you have set up so that way, if something happens, your kids know how to respond, you know how to respond, that kind of thing?
Uh-oh.
I don't know where there's a better signal.
There. I wanted to make one comment is that whoever said to you that you're not making an impact, you were making an impact enough on them for them to notice and say something. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I didn't think about it that way.
They noticed.
And they're worried, right? And then maybe people want to be protective of you, and maybe that makes them start, moving and doing something. Or at least you would hope, right? Like, yeah.
Because I had somebody come after me really hard a couple weeks ago. Like, they made it their mission to just try to just tear everything down, and I was like, you can't. I was like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. Everyone's holding each other accountable. Like, I don't know why you're so pissed off. And my husband was even like, they're just mad that y'all are doing something, like that we have a group now who's actively working towards a goal and letting people know what's going on. And I'm like, that shouldn't make you mad. You should be supportive. Like, we're trying to get you paid too.
What should make somebody mad is the people who are fasting involuntarily. The people who,
yes, that makes me mad. Yeah.
yeah, people who don't have enough resources to eat properly. I personally went through something like that in 2013 and 14 and was in a deep precarious situation that almost took me out. And I think about that every single day that this has been going on. I think about it. It's hard to, I have to stop my brain from thinking about it at night just so I can sleep, because I know that's happening to people.
Well, and then it's also are they fasting, or are they getting food by doing things outside of the alignment of their value system just so they can survive, right? Maybe they are eating, but they're doing something that kills their soul a little. Do we really want that? No, we don't want any of that. And then you also have less energy, right? If you don't have the nutrients that should be coming into your body. And so like you're doing something empowering while, causing yourself to be not as efficient and effective as you would be if you were feeding yourself, right? Like, these things are important.
It was hard.
So I had turned the camera outside for a minute just to show that it is a snow day out here in Palestine. And Zephyr, it's put me on hot chocolate duty. He's been outside so long, his little face is hurt from all the ice. So, I think it's really interesting to think about fasting as an exercise in health as well, which is what I plan on doing. Is when I go to fast, I plan to actually do it in order to improve my health while doing something for humanity and demanding for the checks. I think that's something that I think can be done, because the point of a fast can also be, as 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐬 had mentioned before at the other when we talked before, it can also be a fasting of material goods and material possessions. It could be the strike. Instead of just the hunger strike, it could be a general strike. This could be what leads you to the general strike of not consuming any sort of extra things that you don't need at the moment. And I know that we have some people on our podcast who would love to speak to that too. Maybe Kai. I can see she's getting ready.
Well, and about a week ago, I think I reached out to Viz on Twitter, and I was recalled to when the women who stood in vigil outside of the White House were then finally arrested and put into jail. And all they were asking for was the right to vote, and they were doing it very peacefully. It was led by a Quaker. Like, none of this is unknown or unusual in the world of protest. As 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐬 has you did your research. So those women, when they were in prison, what form of protest did they have left? The hunger strike, and they were force fed. After I think about 20 days of their hunger strike, and it was very brutal. And actually, it was the stories of those brutalities of how brutal the president was, basically, in force feeding those women who were on hunger strike in prison.
Force feeding is an inhumane practice that has been outlawed by the international community. So,
sure,
including here in the United States.
But it was the stories
it still happens,
of that actually then tipped the scales, and within weeks, within days, actually, of those stories going national, we passed that amendment, and here we are 101 years later. So there is a very strong tradition of using hunger strikes and other forms of strike to accomplish goals. And it is a very important component, but certainly not the only one, of what they call peaceful resistance, or nonviolent resistance. And there are other things, and I know people have been going to the state capitol buildings, to their city halls, certainly to protest. And then the other thing that people can do, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is to hold vigil. And you can hold vigil in any number of ways. So this is something that I want people to consider, is that you can hold vigil in your own house, in your church, in your community. You can stand in vigil in front of the state capitol building, the governor's buildings, including DC. But we can hold vigils of our own in our homes during the pandemic as an outward sign to people that we understand their suffering, we understand, and we're here for you. Like, we're here. So, potentially, like during the time of the Civil War, there were signals of where those safe repositories were, where people could go get help, where escaped slaves could find shelter and refuge. And they were signs that were outward signs, that hopefully didn't lead people to danger, but often were those things that brought people into safety and security and into community. And I think that we need to just be a lot more visible about our presence and our willingness to bring people in, as well as have that outward display. And I think Viz is finding a very inward process of joining in solidarity all the people who don't have the choice. And I appreciate that very much.
And I think we have Karen here who would be able to really speak to, how important it is that everybody who is checking in on Viz. I mean, the fact that we check in on her means that we care about her so deeply. And this is really the most important, the most humanity forward aspect of what she's doing. I mean, I don't know how people could get upset on the internet about people checking in on somebody who's on a hunger strike. This happened.
I try to remember if someone's reactive or angry, that some part of them is touched by it. I know there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of vetting. I'm trying, it's very difficult. I've got family members now that I can't even talk to. But I'm trying to remind myself that there's a part of them that wants what we're talking about, but they haven't gotten clicked into the right mindset. Is that I take note of the fact that a lot of the people, I was kind of in circles where I saw what happened with the QAnon situation and, of course, what erupted this week. And a lot of people in that, and I'm not excusing their behavior. I don't agree with the violence. I completely repudiate that. But I also know that a lot of them clicked into these desperate circles that they went into because they lost a home into 2008 turndown. There's a lot of people that were sitting around with no job, no home. They lost their home, they lost their jobs, they lost their careers in that turn down that never completely recovered.
For sure.
And what happened is they went down a path of vengeance, in a sense, when really there's deprivation and the precariat. And I use that word because it's a word people are not familiar with. Guy Standing, who is a basic income advocate, came up with it. But it's basically when you don't have solid ground under your feet financially, when you are not secure. And you play this, what I call the precariat games, where you go through every which way you can to survive. And some people persevere, many people don't.
Karen, I just want to touch on that. It's like, does everybody remember what happened before the rise of Hitler's coming to power? Scarcity, economic collapse, hyperinflation. So it's not, it's not a coincidence. It's just that when when you're fighting over resources, or you don't know where your stuff is going to come tomorrow, you're more viable to lash out. And it's like that's what we're seeing now. The thing is, when somebody comes along and says, like, points a finger and says that your problems and why you don't have anything and why your life is crumbling is because of these people over there, they're doing this to you, then you're gonna go like you want to like get them. So but then that's why, like, our voices are coming and we're saying, like, no, it's we just need to communicate better with each other. There's a reason for all of this, but it's not just like one a person or one entity. It's just that our distribution systems have all these dark incentives that we're not understanding. And it's not, the Jews or Congress or anything like that, or that it's just that people need to, think more clear, yeah.
I would like to touch on something. We have big businesses geared towards the 7 deadly sins, and they have AI algorithms and knowledge on all of us on how to make money off of our base human desires, right? And we would almost need to change their algorithm for them to even consider that we're like their algorithms are wrong, right? And for them to change it would not be in their benefit. I mean, if you are trying to cure cancer and you are making bank off of that, millions, billions off of trying to cure cancer, you're going to want people to have cancer, right? And so if you want cancer, you're going to have everyone in poverty, because that's going to make it much easier, right? And so, like, these are things that are dangerous, right? The incentives are actually to cure cancer. We need cancer, so we're going to help promote cancer, right? And cancer is kind of excessive coping mechanisms, right? That's where most of what I found, it plus poverty, right? This isn't the only thing, right? A lot of us have just natural human immune systems that don't work great, right? It's not all based on coping mechanisms. But I mean, if you're going to smoke more if you're stressed over money, you're going to eat more if you're stressed over money, and that's your way of handling things. How do you handle stress? Well, sometimes it's putting things in our body that isn't great, right? And doing things like fasting is like the opposite, right? But it still takes its toll. It still costs you something, right? We need to recognize where the incentives are, which algorithms need a new program attached, and how can we pull these kind of things off. But I think it's also just collectively waking people up, but that's so hard if we have no recognition.
I got a question for Miss Viz. What is a dominant thing that you've learned by having this experience?
I've learned, I would say self-control is one of the biggest, because I had to find new coping mechanisms to deal with the stress that I was going through with my daily life. And I had to, it actually was really eye-opening that I was like, oh, well, I don't need to emotionally eat to get through a really hard situation. It kind of forced me to look inward a lot more. So I was really thankful for that aspect of this whole experience.
That's good. I think one thing we're going to need to get to is the way forward is our humanity, our baseline humanity. The way forward is our hearts, because the ideas that we've had have not been working collectively.
I'll tell you what, it's been quite a challenge for our family. I run a nonprofit and I'm an entrepreneur, so it's we've been activists for a long time, so we're no stranger to doing these sorts of things. But I think collectively as a family, it really got us a little closer to experiencing like true hunger in a way that we hadn't in a long time, and gave us a lot of perspective on life and just how just how broken these systems are. And it's interesting. I'm a product designer by trade, and I work for a software development company, designed a number of upskilling corporate training platforms for the military. And the algorithms you're discussing, that's baked into what's good UX design, user experience design. And unfortunately, we don't really have a check on the habit loops we build into the products, right? The incentives and the outcomes we're trying to drive people towards. Our definition of done is, did the user complete the action that we were paid to have them complete? There's no, just kind of like when you think about the Nazis in a bunker pushing a button, no one's stopping and putting the check on on the brakes on it, saying, hey, should we be getting so good at iterating on these products that now people can't stop themselves from doing these things within our applications, right? Because when I was fully focused on just the corporate side of the world, that was my job. I was paid by how many users can you get on this platform and how long can you keep them there. So I think that's the motivations behind and how we build our applications and technology. Like, that's a huge ethical conversation.
And what kind of defense is a 9-year-old going to have against that, right?
Right. You're not. When you have PhDs who have studied, who have studied psychology for 2 decades, building these applications. A 9-year-old's not going to be immune to it. Most adults are not going to be immune to it, because it's not tech people who are behind the scenes of these. It's psychiatrists, psychologists, people who really understand learning science, like myself. And so, it's they're really, the law has not caught up to what we're able to do in tech. It's still very much the Wild West, and I think it's up to all of us to be the adults in the room and kind of sound the alarm, which, I was just listening in on a minute of this. I usually don't get the chance for it, but it's fantastic to hear these conversations kind of happening organically and outside of tech, because it is something that has made me focus more on philanthropy and move more towards the nonprofit side, and really question, like, what kind of interactions do I want my own children to have with technology? And this fast just gave us a chance to really, reflect on all that and where we want to go with our lives. So.
Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. What is your husband's name, Viz?
Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Tom Seelock. Yeah, I'm the founder of Design by Humanity, and I'm head of curriculum for a software development boot camp called Catalyte. So that's kind of my day job, and then these are my kids. But I'm not really. Christy's is the one who shines on Twitter, and yeah.
Are you two having a snow day out there too? Because we're having snow right here.
We're close.
That's really interesting.
We're close.
It's coming up towards you, I guess. It's moving its way up.
How odd is that you're getting snow where you guys are?
It's not unusual. I lived in Texarkana. We had a horrible ice storm when I was living there. Apparently that happens, but this time of year.
Is that like a blizzard, or what is that?
Did you have a snow or
where
ice
I
storm?
am? Or where?
Yeah,
snowstorm. Oh, okay.
Is an ice storm a blizzard?
It's not very often that we usually get snow like once every, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. And so not every year we get it, but every year I get snow pants just in case, because what a terrible mom you would be if you couldn't go out to play in the snow the one day it came. But yeah,
you guys, is an ice storm the same as a blizzard, or is that different?
It's typically caused by.
Like I said, an ice storm is a type of blizzard. Like an ice storm is a hailstorm, right? You're talking about hail.
No. It can also be
sleet or hail.
It can also be slight rain that hits. It could be slight rain that freezes when they hit
You're
the
from
floor.
the West Coast, right? You don't get wintry mix out there, do you? So we have a fucking thing called. We have all kinds of precipitation. This has nothing to do with our topic, but you got all kinds of precipitation here. Like sleet, hail, ice. Who knows what they mean when they say it's icing out? I don't know, and I've lived in New York my whole life. Yeah. But it happens, it ices here. Yeah. So things come from the sky in all kinds of frozen liquid solid form. And that was not helpful.
Bring it back it's interesting to the conversation.
What was it?
About
𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐬, your husband, it's interesting because everybody thinks that everyone who works in tech is like a like one of the engineering nerds, but it's like they're not all engineering nerds. They're marketing, they're psychologists, they're like things. Some of them don't know anything about programming, but they're on the marketing and psychology side of it. Right?
Absolutely. I was a middle school teacher, and then I became a learning scientist, and then started building ed tech and e-learning products and learned to code from there. And it's very interdisciplinary, and there are entire teams of people who, before a software engineer touches that app, they've already mapped up the user flows, the habit loops, the outcomes. It's basically all there on paper, and it's been tested to make sure that that user is going to do the things they want. Which is great when it's used for a positive purpose, like in education, to create adaptive learning. However, we call dark UX, are things like, whenever you try to think about when a pop-up comes up and you try to click the X and it doesn't work, and it opens another window. That's like dark UX, tricking the user into doing something that's harmful. And that decision about what's harmful and what's good is typically up to the designer. And so there's a lot of ethics that need to get layered back into tech. And so I started a nonprofit called Design by Humanity, and we provide tuition-free, right now, learning experience design training for people who want to get into my field. But we really teach it from an anti-racist perspective, from a humanity-first perspective, and are trying to change the way people learn and interact about tech. Because we feel like if we can change the way the values of the designers going into tech and making sure those are aligned the right way, it's going to really kind of have a big impact on tech companies. And yeah, it's a big world out there, and
just
you have to think about just how much money tech companies have.
Right. And how much power they have. They can block the president of the United States.
Oh,
Look at that. I know it's like crazy. You like when we think we're being aggrieved, but you see, this is where I find overlap with the right and the left. Fox News is talking about the power of big tech, but everybody's saying, oh, they're conservative, we shouldn't listen to them. No, we should be listening to that. There's some things we can agree on. And when Trump said he was being shadow banned and all that stuff, I don't agree with everything the guy says, but when he was talking about the 600 being turned into 2,000 and the shadow banning that's happening on some of these tech platforms, you don't have to be a MAGA to see that there's some overlap within some of this,
Absolutely. What I tell people is power, and right now it's on the side you want it to be, but it can just as easily swing the opposite direction. So that should concern all of us, because these tech companies are, who do they answer to? This power answers to investors, so it's kind of the zero-sum game.
Up to the people.
And you just don't realize that, think about who's building the infrastructure in your city governments on their tech projects. It's Microsoft, it's software engineering companies. With the speed at which tech moves is so much more rapid than what's happening even within the government, the Department of Defense, that it's kind of almost a joke within tech, honestly. That,
it's scary.
Whatever we're going to sell to the government, that's going to be, probably not as good as what we could get into at an Amazon or a Microsoft, just anecdotally. So I think it's we should all be a little concerned. We should be really concerned about just how we interact with technology and what these companies are able to do and control the media that we not only consume, but what we produce, what we can say. I'd like to see many more social media platforms. I'd like to see, basically more, I don't know basically we have this consolidation of media platforms with Twitter and Facebook, and that's a problem. We do have this oligarchy in tech that is quite concerning.
Thomas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your name is Thomas, is that correct? Thomas, did you know that we host some social streams where we play games together as YangGang, and we talk about, what we love to talk about, universal basic income, while we're playing. And so kind of a strange thing to do, but we've played, first-person shooters, we've played party games, we've played The Sims with Mia, who is wonderful at creating a universal basic income for her Sims. And so we're wondering if you have some software that you might like to share with us to show us, some of you can talk about your design elements and so forth. We
Sure.
could do that during a social stream. It would be very
Yeah,
chill.
If you go to designxhumanity.com, we built a VR art gallery celebrating Black history. You can put on an Oculus Rift and walk around and check that out for yourself.
Nice.
Yeah, I have about 450 volunteers working on DXH projects right now. We're sponsored by GoFundMe C-Suite. They set up our charitable fund, so we're self-funded that way. And we came here to Tulsa. I'm part of Tulsa Remote, which is a startup accelerator here in Tulsa. And that's kind of what we're here doing. We live right down the street from Greenwood. We're focused on our activism on Black Wall Street and trying to support BIPOC-owned businesses. So I lend my design and business development services to entrepreneurs here.
Oh, I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a project, and I discussed it with 4-4. It's called Leyline, and they're trying to use the power of gaming to get people to do good in the world, like donating your computer power to like cancer research and stuff like that on like Science United. And I also had a conversation with a guy named Cody Hill who used to work at Facebook and Amazon, and he's trying to push. I think we got to get a group of people together, like really smart people, intelligent people from like all walks of life, and push back against the toxicity in like social media and big tech and all of that stuff, and reverse engineer some of those things for good causes. And we can all be like a union. And you see that there's also social media called Clubhouse, which encourage like better interaction and MeWe. So we just have to get really intelligent minds together and push back against this toxicity and all that stuff.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. I love Clubhouse. I'm very much an optimist. I think that the monopolies on tech were a lot to do with just them being first to market and the rest of the world not really understanding that market. But as we, education is really key. As we disseminate kind of the playbook of big tech and more people get involved in tech, we have more diverse voices in tech. We have more women in software engineering. That's one of the biggest challenges is it's a white male dominated, industry, and it's stayed that way for quite a while. So you're just now starting to see more equitable discussions happening in tech, and a lot of the biases within the tech industry being addressed in a more systemic way. And I think these newer social media platforms, they're a lot more progressive in that way. So I think I'm very hopeful. What I also really love to see, especially here, what we're doing in Tulsa, is focusing on building, not big tech, but small tech, sole proprietorships, partnerships, mom and pop tech companies. A big push, the reason that I'm in Oklahoma is we're focused on Native American-owned software companies who are building applications and standing those up on tribal grounds. That's another push, because if we can, because Native American tribes, they can compete with offshore costs. So I think I don't have a perfect answer to any of this, but the play I've been making is let's build smaller companies that are socially conscious to compete locally against these very large conglomerates. And part of that is to bring that money back into the communities they need to serve. So when I think about remote work, I think about the economic empowerment that can bring, that the people I train who live in Greenwood near Black Wall Street, the descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre, that remote job they get, that money goes back into Greenwood now. It's not going to Amazon. It's not going out of the community. And that person is not having to leave the market to get a job. Same thing as on our tribal lands. That money that they bring in through those remote tech contracts, that's going back into the tribe, that's going back into those lands, that's keeping people in the community, that's keeping the language alive, because they're not leaving that market to go to Oklahoma City or Chicago or anywhere else. So I think
Which
there's
tribe are you connected to?
Right now I work with the Osage Nation and the Chickasaw Nation. And so
You
we're working with
personally
more.
a member of a tribe? Are you personally
no,
a member of one of the tribes? Okay.
I'm not. I work with the mayor of Oklahoma City, who is Osage. And so he connected me with the tribal leaders. And so it started with conversations with him. And then I'm just I'm just a socially conscious activist. You know, I've
You
worked in
seen
these
that
tech
game?
companies.
There's a game
And
called Never Alone. Have you seen this game before?
she has. I wish I had time to game as much as I used to.
It's really beautiful. When you get a
Oh.
chance, let Visuant show you, because this is
Okay.
a game that was created for storytelling of the ancient stories that are being lost. A lot of the cultures
Cool.
are, finding modern day video games to be telling all these other stories that, but the old stories are being lost. And so they found a way to tell it through gaming, which I thought
Beautiful.
was very beautiful. I shared that with Fredoni before, and hopefully that's something we could do maybe as a social stream if you wanted to join us. I think
I would
I'd love to
love
show
to
it to you because
join
I have a
you.
copy, or maybe your wife. Yeah. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great.
I would love to join one of those
But back
sometime.
to Viz for a
Oh yeah,
second.
please. I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
I
But
wanted to.
you're welcome to come on sometime. In your own right.
Anytime you want.
With your own account.
Sure.
We'd love to have you back sometime. So
Yeah,
thanks for talking to us.
I do podcasts all the time. I would love to do it. So yeah, we can set that up for sure.
We'll set that up. Great.
Viz, I'll let you take over.
Thank you.
I wanted
great
to chime
guy.
in real quick to something we were saying. The thing is, I think what has happened since Yang dropped out, a lot of people started doing their own tech companies. A lot of people started developing some of the strategies that he talked about in his book, right? The War on Normal People. And because of that, I think now it's just a matter of finding the people who have started these projects and help lifting them up. I think not enough of these people have most of us don't have clout, right? I feel, at least. And how do you gain that except for networking and uplifting and being the cheerleader for somebody
and
when
we
they're not
don't want
around?
to lose our dignity either. You know, a lot of people gain clout through doing stuff, and your dignity is lost. I don't want to run with no clothes on in the middle of the street just so I can get followers and stuff like that. I think this culture. So I just have to put that in there, Faye. But I think it's we want to gain clout in a way that's dignified, and that's what we're all trying to do. Go ahead, Faye.
Oh, that's good.
I think this kind of dovetails back to what we were talking with Visuant about, how this fast can still be effective even without the clout. It's similar to the gaming industry or whatever. Anybody starting to do something new, people say, "Why are you doing this when you don't have watching you?" But I think we're sure there is a point to it. There's a interesting writer. His name is Knut Hamsun. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Vigilant, but he wrote a book called Hunger, and it was a Nobel Prize winning book. So it was written back in 1890. It's very old now. And Knut Hamsun then lived all the way through the I think it was the World War II. He received the Nobel Literature Prize in 1920, about 30 years after he wrote this book. And afterwards, because the Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize of any kind gives you a lot of money. Back in the day, it was considered quite a considerable sum. And the idea was that you would to do more good things, right? Here's a lump sum of money. You'll do something with it because you won the prize for doing something amazing already. Things. And he was criticized because, he wrote this book called Hunger, about hunger. And then when he got his prize, he didn't actually to people who were hungry or do anything specifically, uplifting that people thought maybe he would do. So we'd like to find out, you're not going to be receiving a giant prize for all this, hungering that you've been doing. So how are you going to continue to fight for UBI?
I'm just gonna keep continuing doing what I'm doing, even if it's even after this, fasting will always be on the table just because that's something that government can't take away from you. They can't make you stop. They can try. They've sure tried with other people, but that's something that can't be twisted into being violent. It can't be misconstrued. It's very straight up, and that's why I like that apart so much. But I really, after seeing everything, how it is in the world, we need more people willing to do the right thing without receiving anything in return. I feel like that's missing. Like everyone's like, yeah, I'll do this if I get paid. Yeah, I'll do this if I get something in return. Where are all the people who are like, hey, I just want to do good because it's good to do good? I want to encourage more of that behavior, more of a community and less of a scratch yours, because then at the day, we're finding ourselves here in this situation where the world's falling apart and nobody really wants to, step out or do anything to.
It's me or Vizeroff freezing.
Yeah,
We're having some problems.
Video and voice is freezing a little bit.
But I get
think
the
your
gist
internet
of what you're
was
trying
cutting
to
out.
say.
Try again.
Yeah, no, my internet's really bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
you
we
had
shouldn't be
told
so
us you were going to give us
transactional.
half an hour. You had told us that you were going to give us a half an hour today because today was a really hard day in mental health. Have you thought about, are you feeling okay right now to continue, or would you like to go ahead and say goodbye now?
I'm gonna probably have to sign off now. I was planning on going in for a checkup anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll be texting you guys though.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Very much
Really
for
great
joining
talking
us.
to you. I'm sure we'll talk to you again. I will talk to you again about setting up another hunger strike, a bigger, better one. That'll just be a platform built on what you've already done. So thank you. It was great to meet you and your husband, and we'll have him on again. I forget, what's your husband's name?
His name is Tom. Thank you guys so much for having us on. It was such a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Wait for people to reach out
Thank
to you
both.
and contact you.
In touch.
All right, boys. Hi, guys. Bye.
See you later.
that was nice. Oh.
We had one other person from the group, the Fasting for Humanity group, that was planning to join us, and they hopped into our new users group, but it doesn't look like they've been able to find the voice
Next
channel.
time,
So
we'll get at least 12 people. We'll do it. Start on Valentine's Day. We'll call it like the YangGang Valentine's Day Massacre, where we kill poverty, and we'll get 12 people to live stream 2 hours a day, and we'll get a new YouTube channel, and it'll be just them 24/7 live streaming to the fast, because we'll just get people in the right time zones, so it won't stop. It will be hard to ignore, and it'll just keep going.
And I like your idea. I heard it about just like live streaming, calling Congress and stuff, because people have a chance, because it seems a lot of times when you call some kind of representative or city councilman or what you might call it, it's like, yeah, we'll look into that.
Right, exactly.
You never know if they have or they haven't. They just say like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, if you put it on record, we sent you this message at this time. If you make it a public message,
we
that
sent you
everyone
this
can read.
and we had this conversation with you at this time.
Right, it's
everyone
on video.
knows about it.
It's on video. We left you the voicemail.
It's on video.
We videoed ourselves sending you a voicemail. Exactly. If you didn't listen to it and 1,000 other people did, that's on you.
Right, 100%. I think that's the best way, because if they just say, "Oh, we'll take care of that," then we call them the next day and say, "What have you done about it?"
Yes.
And they're like, "Oh, we're busy." It's like, how long are you busy for? Because you get that a lot. "Oh, we're busy. We'll we don't have time. We're busy. Screw that.
Busy ducking under our chairs. I mean, they are busy, but
right.
Well, one thing we
Doing
have
the
a
right
very
thing.
unique shift in the energy about all this, because of course, McConnell was the wall that they've been hiding behind about what they're going to do or what they're not going to do, the Grim Reaper, right? And that's not going to be a factor when the next Congress is seated. Thank you, Andrew Yang, for going to Georgia and doing what he did and taking a lot of criticism. Now, my mom is a Republican, and she's YangGang. I converted her last year. And then she started watching what they were saying about him going down there, and she's like, "That's not quite right." I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, they lie to you. So just know that now,
My mom was MAGA, and she was like, "Oh my goodness," and I'm like, "Calm down. It's not."
Yeah,
like
she knows Yang wasn't like that. She pays attention. My mom did.
Yeah.
So We're
Right.
hearts
Well,
and
no,
minds are
I'm
going to
glad because
change.
they got him some they got him some name recognition at least. At least even if it's like a little negative, at least he's out there now. So if they just say his name and smear him, then they're like, "Oh, I'll Google that guy." It's like it'll show all the good stuff he's been doing. So I just hope they just say his name more, whether it's whatever he's doing and whatever light they want to put it in.
That's why the New York run
You
is
want-
beautiful, because he's going to have press, talking about it in the biggest city in the world. That could probably still finance some form of a basic income, even as a partial. The New York
Right.
has so much. It's literally the capital of our monetary system in the United States.
It's the heart of Wall Street, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Wall Street owes us this money because of what they did. It's more, and you like I had a saying where I said this freedom dividend is more of a refund. It's refund for all the corruption we had to deal with, for all the incompetence we have to deal with all these people. It's like a refund for all these like wars that we've been having. It's a refund for all of this inconvenience. I call it like the Great American Refund. Like that's what I said.
Reparations for decades and decades of supply side
Incompetent
economics.
numbskulls
Yeah,
in power.
The Reagan economic structure that we had is
Right.
the number one reason why we have wealth inequality right now.
This election wasn't theft. That was theft. That the Reagan economic structure was theft and fraud and scam and all those things. Right.
Go ahead, Faye.
Are you speaking to me or to the other Faye? There's two Faye.
I'm going to let you know. Thank you.
Well, I just think that I wanted to maybe tell my little story that I told to YGRL, which is that my grandmother actually went on a hunger strike. And it was a very personal, quiet one. So what happened was, when she was a young person, she was told by her father that it was time for her to be married. And at that point, she was the oldest of a lot of children. And so she was sort of the mommy of the home because her mom was not with her anymore. So she became the, primary caregiver for everybody in her family. And she said that, her father didn't do owner, so he just owned things and told people what to do. And then she had a grandmother in the home who had a servant girl and was given expensive teas and opium every single day and waited on hand and foot by the servant girl. And then she herself was busy taking care of all the kids. But her father said, okay, it's time. You're at that age. It's time to be married. And so she became a picture bride. And her picture was given out to the lady who does these things and matchmaker. And my grandfather put her out, among a lot of photos, said, this is the one. This is the girl I want. So her father agreed to it. And she had absolutely nothing to do anything. And all she knew about her new husband was that he was a soldier, which my grandfather was in the military. And so she did not want to be married to a soldier. I want to be married to someone who is an academic, a scholar. Okay, because she was like, two paths in life, I'm going to go with this one. And her father did not agree. He was the boss and he was going to decide for her. So she went on hunger strike, and it was 14 days, about 2 weeks she didn't eat prior to my grandfather coming to pick her up anyway. And they were married anyway. Her father said, I'm the boss, you're going to do what I want, and it doesn't matter if you starve yourself or whatever it is. But this story was passed down, they took a photo for the wedding photo, and it was my grandfather very, very happy, beaming with pride and happiness in his military outfit and in his uniform, and my grandmother with her sunken cheeks, 2 weeks of not eating, and obviously without the full nutritional drink that 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐻 is trying to use.
Yeah, that's a raw story.
And they have this photo.
Wow.
Yeah, they continue to tell this story to the grandchildren. Now we've got great grandchildren. They went on to have a beautiful life together with 4 beautiful children of their own, who all went out and had their own children. And so, when you ask about why would you go on a hunger strike, even if it was pointless, because obviously, my grandmother knew her father. She did the best she could, but she probably knew it was never going to come to anything. But why do something that, nobody else knew? There was no press. It was just about her and her father and her family. Her family knew. And my grandfather knew. Obviously, it was obvious to him, and she, told him what happened immediately. And I think it made a difference. It made a difference in her life, for the remainder of, for generations to come. We still remember her as that strong person who was going to, decide for herself what her life would be like. And I think it made a big difference in how my grandfather then proceeded to treat her, and became, and won her over time. So anyway, we have a new friend joining us. Refluence. Okay, I think you've been here before, so I was hoping it was it was our. Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
How you doing?
Hi, Refluence. How are you?
Good. Just a little break from. I'm
Okay.
still at work, but I got time.
Nice
Did you catch the earlier part of our podcast?
No, I missed it. Sorry.
Okay.
It's okay.
Thank you for
it's up
joining
on
us
YouTube,
anyway.
right? It's up
we
on
can't
my
reasonably expect Refluence to watch our show when he's at work. So thanks for coming.
Right.
Saying hi. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the recent news, my man? What do you think?
Thank you guys. Thank you for letting me in.
Yeah.
Bro.
How are you feeling about the state of the world? Give us your thoughts.
Oh, the Capitol Hill?
Yeah, speak your
man.
mind. You just got here, so I don't know how long your break is. I want to let you say your piece.
Okay. So there's a Tom Clancy game called Division.
Okay.
And it's remind me so much of the events
Good
of
intro.
Capitol Hill. So it's kind of like a shooter game.
Yeah, that's what Tom
It's very
Clancy does.
stealthy.
In general, it felt right. It felt very like, oh my god, I can play a game in real life, or I can go outside and experience. It was weird, but me and my brother we're gamers a lot of the time. But like art imitates life, and the vice versa. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird seeing Capitol Hill like that. It's very sad. So that's my take on it.
Little by little, our lives are turning into video games. It's very interesting. It's like the
True.
insanity that we only thought we'd see in like Grand Theft Auto and like Call of Duty is like, spilling its way into the world. It's
That's kind of crazy.
I'd rather just be on the screen. I'd rather like violence and destruction just be a virtual thing than a real thing. But
Right.
hey, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, but I mean, like it's well, hopefully it could have been much worse. So it was not that much of a video game where it's just like, people just like dropping by tens or the 100, So yeah. But I see what you mean, man.
Yeah, thankfully. It's gotten worse.
Yeah, could have been a lot
yeah.
worse. So, are you worried that this is eating up the media cycle where we should be talking still about how those $2,000 checks were blocked again and again and again, and we still need them, and now there's no more media airspace to talk about that? Because that's kind of a wag the dog issue. That's where there's like the ongoing crisis is sort of shoved away from the public discourse by a new crisis, which is it's a really insidious thing that just seems to happen in America. And who's to say?
Trump has a way.
What is one to do?
See, Trump has a way of sucking all the oxygen out of the room all the time. He sucks out all the oxygen of the room, and I think like this is like you know like that kid that like, you know, they always want like attention and to be held and stuff like that, and then when you just ignore them, they like throw a gigantic tantrum. That's basically what we saw.
Thanks
you
for the
know,
sub,
I think,
Motionola.
yeah,
We
that's
got a
what
new
I'm actually concerned
subscriber.
about.
Guys, I'm gonna say
I'm,
I want to start thanking subscribers because then we'll get more. So thanks for
I'm
the sub,
concerned.
Motionola, for subscribing. Normally I just
Oh,
let
thank
people
you.
keep talking, but I'm going
Ah.
to interrupt and say thank you for the subscription. Anyway.
What's his
Oh, you're
what's his
talking
name
about
so I
YouTube,
can say
right?
his
Yeah,
name
no, we got a
too?
new subscriber. So it's customary to do that. Like everyone's like,
Yes.
why don't we get more views and subs? It's because we just, I mean, it's not, there's a lot of reasons, but I just tend to disregard what people prescribe as best practice because there's a lot of toxicity in there usually. But sometimes there's some good I throw out with the bad. So thank you for the sub. I acknowledge your subscription and we all appreciate it. So thanks. Anyway,
Yes,
keep
we
talking.
do.
What I'm really
Well,
concerned about, though, is that I think you're right. This whole distraction, issue. What I'm thinking is the FBI is now distracted. They're busy contact tracing all these people. You know, they said all 50 states FBI has been mobilized to go after these. I consider them like these little mice. You know, they're the little mice who rioted. And what about individual number one? That's the guy we need to go after. And, I was like, how much energy do we have left after we trace all 50 states? That's going to take years to build a case when they
10 more days.
they need to be
10
moving
more
quickly.
days. And just
Build
like
that case
10.
now, instantly.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Remember
like
how long they
that's
took to build that, what was it, the Jeffrey Epstein case? I mean, they took years and years and so many more victims and so many more victims continued happening because they were building the case.
so
Unbelievable.
gross. There's a double standard. If you have connections, if you have money, it's like you can hold them at bay. If you don't, we got you, gone, done. It's like it's so gross. It's just
They were
like
like,
this.
there were so many victims that they were just, it was almost like they were waiting for more and more of them to get the perfect case together. And it's like, there is no perfect case. Why didn't you just
Right.
stop it so we didn't have this many victims? Incredible.
Right. It's just so and it's like I just the president disgusts me so much. It's like, dude, like you live a life that people can only dream of, having this much comfort and luxury and to be waited on and having all these maids and never having to worry about like money a single day in your life. But it's never enough. It's like you're supposed to be the center of attention. You always have to have your ego stroked. You always have to have your crowds. It's all about you. It's like, get lost. Like,
If there's such a thing as being a victim of one's own, not success, I guess, excess wealth. It's just like,
right.
You can
It's
have your
just-
sense of self miscalibrated. I mean, one must wonder if the man legitimately thinks he is where he is because he is such a shrewd negotiator,
just wants
such
his
a
ego
genius.
stroked.
Like
Let me.
it's like
let me-
a person who just bumbles through life and has perfect events unfold before him, and then attributes it to his ability wrongfully. Hey, if he has no point of comparison, how will he ever know he's not perfect? Right? He's just got a world of enablers.
Yeah.
Something I want to say to that is I think America needs to have a takeaway on this is narcissistic psychopathy, and our system is built to support narcissistic psychopaths. I had to go through this life lesson as a domestic violence survivor of that mindset. And these people are always going to exist, and they're going to rise quite high because they're so singularly focused on themselves. And we as a group need to learn we do not need to be rewarding that because we'll just get more of the same.
So,
go ahead, Kai.
Are you tapping in, Refluence? Oh, no, you're saying
she's
hi.
just saying hi because he saw you.
He's waving. He's waving to you.
That's
Yeah.
good. We were talking about this in worship today and in our program with the Friends Committee on National Legislation, which is the lobbying arm for Quakers on the whole. And everything that's happened this week, it's very much on our minds. We're one of the largest standing peace churches in the United States, and we helped establish this country. The ideas of freedom and liberty and equality for all come directly from Quaker teachings and Quaker belief structures. And so the question becomes, what do you do when you are confronted with somebody who does not share those values, who doesn't believe in equality for all? They're not interested in that, and they'll openly admit it. And how do you hold those people accountable for the things that they're doing to other people when everybody else is on the same page and they're the only, they're the elephant in the room? And how do we press accountability towards that? And what we have in politics and in this corporate system is definitely like, well, those people are rewarded. They're rewarded. This system is built for their reward now. And the rest of us are left in the fray. And this gets to the root too of
Boils my blood.
maybe there's a time that pacifism needs to end. And maybe it's with those people. And I'm not going to say, yeah, that's the best solution, but it would be foolish of me to admit that it's not a solution.
Well, you got to stop turning the other cheek.
Yeah, it's
at
with
one
this
point.
in mind that I can't wholesale condemn the people who appeared at the Capitol. I can't be like, bad, bad, bad. No. I'm not going to finger wag them. I'm mad as hell. I want something to change, and I believe America's a banana republic at this point. If you want to go shake the tree, I will not condemn you. I'm not there myself, but I understand.
Well, and since, this is my opportunity for anybody that's interested in the lobbying arm of what we have that as a peace church. Check it out. It's fcnl.org. So Friends Committee on National
But
Legislation.
here's the thing. I see the people who attacked the Capitol as like middle schoolers, right? And I see Donald Trump as the principal. I think that it's like 55% of the teachers said that the principal should go away because the principal was a lunatic. And then the principal
That's
told
too funny.
all the middle schoolers to try to get the teachers and tie them up and attack them, and he shouldn't be thing. It's like you're supposed to be the principal, so you're not supposed to get a bunch of middle schoolers and tell them to like grab eggs and their stuff on their desk and throw it at all the teachers that they don't like and break the school and destroy the teachers' lounge, right? It's
I hear what you're saying, Ariel, but I want to make a point. It's going to be a mistake to make an assumption that these people are stupid or immature. What they are is hierarchical. They are hierarchists. They believe in a command and control structure for everything. And their commander in chief is, yes, he's immature, probably stuck at 13 years old as far as, maturity, but he's also shrewd. These people are shrewd and they calculate. And the thing that you only get from a narcissist, and this is true for them as well, is you only get betrayal. He has only betrayed people that supported him, because on that list of people they were after was the vice president, because he betrayed the vice president. He threw him under the bus. He threw them under the bus just a few hours later. So it's very important that we don't underestimate what is going on here.
So that's one of the ways in which the FBI itself, like you were saying, the system itself supports the narcissist, is because the people who come out to tell what really happened after the fact, they get the drink, they get the good food, and they get the VIP treatment by the FBI, and they get all the perks, they get all the extra time taken off of their crime, whatever it was they did. As long as they tell, they snitch and tell about what everybody else has done, and you get all these other people in jail, you get all these other people prosecuted for their crimes. When the person that, gives it up, right, that gives up all the information is often the one that, is right on top of things. He knows everybody. He's creating all of this, but, he knows he can get his time taken away from him when he goes to throw everybody else under the bus, which is exactly what we've seen Trump do over and over again. Everybody who's ever worked with him or for him, first of all, he had the reality show where he fires everyone, and it probably was in reality actually happening in all of his corporate enterprises. And then here we are in the political sphere. How many people has he fired after he put them up there,
How
right?
many
For not
people
listening to something
that
he
he's
wanted them to do.
how many people that he fired on The Apprentice all got together and raided his tower?
Well, they operate on
Wow.
these kind of people at this kind of level operate on a principle of attention in the absolute value. And in math, that's plus or minus a value, right? So it's love me or hate me, still an obsession. In the meantime, millions of Americans before the pandemic, but especially right now, are leading lives of quiet desperation because they can't get attention on what is happening to them. And it's very, very important that we put that attention back where it belongs, not on an immature person who's kicking and screaming because he didn't get what he want, but on the people that are us, on our fellow man.
Yeah, 100%. This culture of narcissism has to end once and for all. It's only like putting people in situations where everything is transactional. But make no mistake, did Trump produce the culture, or did the culture produce Trump? Right?
It's pretty much both, because we've allowed narcissism to be the dominant voice. And we're talking right now on a platform where we can say what it is that we see. And I think that if people are in the Yang Gang, they need to be aware, support each other, support the voices that we have. Because we're just real people. We're just regular, normal people, like Andrew Yang says, saying what we see. And we need to uphold each other saying what we see.
I think the name of his book was Genius, War on Normal People. Because in the United States, that's the only metaphor we have for every single thing that happens. It's a war somehow. And if there's a war on anything, it's really the war on normalcy.
I appreciate
Yeah,
I know Yang's good. Go ahead.
I have all his books, his audio books, Andrew Yang's books. They're really good listen. And he himself reads it. So it's like yeah, pretty good books. So plug the books. War on Normal People and what was the other one he made? I forgot.
Smart People Build Things, I think. Wasn't it? Wasn't that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the best
yeah.
thing about the audio books is what Reference is saying is that Andrew Yang actually narrates both of those books in his own voice, which is really, it's like you have him in your living room or in your car when you play it, and it's a whole experience unto itself.
But this is what I love. It's like the things is like when these narcissists think that like they're untouchables and nothing can ever hurt them and they can just do whatever they want. Trump got his Twitter account banned. It's like, dude, you're not like invincible. And I think when you shatter that illusion that they have of their invincibility, I like that. Like I just get a little Schadenfreude from stuff like that.
Sure,
because they deserve
and so I think that, and we talked about this too in Quick meeting. Is there's this magical word, and Trump used it in his speech the other night, and it was smart. But and I think all of us here in the Yang Gang know, it's reconciliation. We need to do a reconciliation, and what South Africa did right when they ended apartheid, which we have never done as a country, is we passed the law. Now you're equal, and we didn't ever have that moment. We didn't pause. We didn't sit down and have a reconciliation, and we haven't made it right ever. And I think that obviously is still needed. Otherwise, why would we have Black Lives Matter protests? And so I think this is the process of reconciliation. I think Occupy was part of it. And I think every single peaceful protest, even that's happened prior to the passage of, civil rights, all of that, it's this very long tradition of those of us who are on the side of equality and of justice and of harmony and of unity and of peace, whatever our stripe is, has been building for all of these centuries, post-enlightenment centuries. And I don't know how to bring it to a head. And this is where I kind of think I'm going to reflect back to something. Let me look it up real quick if anybody else has anything to say. But it's Rilke wrote something beautiful.
Well, I think the Yang community needs to research more, get more information, and get it out there, because if any reconciliation is gonna happen, it's gonna happen with us, and then the whole community will follow, and then our own community follows, and our towns will follow, and then we can get from there. But that's like the first steps. We can't get any further or behind than that.
Here,
I think
I
that's
agree.
where we need to start. Yeah.
So I found this quote that I was looking for. Since you know, after all, that you were in the midst of transitions and you wished for nothing so much as to change, if there is anything unhealthy in your reactions, just bear in mind that sickness is the means by which an organism frees itself from what is alien. So one must simply help it to be sick, to have its whole sickness, and to break out with it, since that is the way it gets better. And that's Rainier Maria Rilke from Letters to a Young Poet. And I think that's what this last 4 years represents to me, for sure. Like when I read that passage, I was like, oh, that's why Trump had to happen.
Right.
And even when he got elected and in the course of his campaign, the first campaign, I'm like, well, yeah, this has been here all along. It's needed to come to a head. We've needed to have the truth and reconciliation that South Africa did right, because they had Mandela. They had Mandela, who was imprisoned for 25 years and who did hunger strikes and did fasts and all of these things in the course of his imprisonment to push forward. And he had all those people behind him as well.
It's kind of like
I think it was 27 years.
it's like that feeling of nauseousness, and it doesn't feel good. But then when a person finally throws up, it feels better after that. And I think like this is America just throwing up, and
there's not a single woman in this room that's had a baby that doesn't understand that when you feel it, and you know it's coming, you're gonna do it. And the longer you fight against it, the worse it is. Whereas if you just go to the bathroom and throw up and get it out, it comes in this big wave and then it eases off, and then you can probably go about your day.
I think maybe
until
that's
you
what
acknowledge
it
the
was.
source of the poison, you can't ever get rid of it.
Like Trump was the national laxative that we.
Yeah, like not like the blue. Was it the blue or red pill? I forgot the differences.
Right.
Like one of the pills.
One of those.
Which pill do you choose?
But that
I don't know.
That's
Blue.
That's
I don't know,
January
but I know
6th.
that the red pill that they gave me in the hospital was the one that made me go poop.
that I think that's what January 6th was. Just like the national vomiting and diarrhea bouts, and then it's all out there, because now it's out of the system. Because before, it could all be excused. It could be like, oh, well, it's not going to get that bad. Come on, you guys, you're overreacting. You guys are talking crazy. But then when it finally happened, they can't say that anymore because it was like all in front of our eyes. So that was like the big national diarrhea dump that we just saw, and then who knows? It's like all out of the system eventually.
Well, on that note, I would like to remind everyone that our podcast is coming to a close, and that if you would like to, wish Viz a healthy recovery from her 30-day long fast on Twitter at 𝐕𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿, URNTVIZ. And my name is Fei Ku. I'm at Palestine Math. We're having a beautiful snow day in Palestine, Texas. PALESTINE MATH from America Think Harder. Let's also get the closing from Karen. Do you want to go next?
Yes, I can be found on Twitter at CareWorthCast, and I want to highlight something I've been talking about, the basicincome.org, or the Basic Income Earth Network, which is where I started my journey with basic income. And I want to tell people that there's an exceptionally good description of what a basic income is. It's the 5 characteristics of the basic income. And I would encourage people to go there. We kind of have to remember that people are hearing about basic income for the first time in our movement. So we need to repeat the basics. We need to stay on point and educate. And repeat and educate, because we're actually now got the attention of many, many people on this topic. They're interested. They want to know more about it. And so we need to keep in mind there's new people coming on all the time, and we need to handhold them through kind of an education process, or maybe a de-education process, depending on how you feel. If you've thought about economics the old way, it's now time for the new way.
Well, we actually had a user on Twitch just ask us, what is the UBI? Just as you had suggested. A lot of new people are discovering us in various ways that we had not thought about before. And when they come in, we hope that they can get the information quickly.
Basicincome.org, basicincome.org.
Okay, very good.
And my 15-second
you,
answer is, sorry.
Go ahead. It's your turn.
Oh, the 15-second answer to what a basic UBI is, universal basic income, is the basic income by which every person is the floor on which they build the rest of their lives with work and leisure as they deem fit for their personal circumstances. And with that floor, everybody is recognized for the inherent value that they serve, that isn't measured by the hours that we spend on a time clock.
Yep.
Okay, I hope that Craig was able to catch that, because I missed some of it. Kai, did you give also your closing?
I am at KAIZENKC. That's 𝐬𝐿𝐼𝐬𝐿 on Twitter, Patreon, and Cash App. So I'm also looking for a basic income. Thanks, everybody.
All right. And Ariel, are you ready to give your closing?
Yes, you can find me at Ariels on Twitter, and you can go to youtube.com. I am revolutionary thinking on there. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. And Reference, would you like people to be able to connect with you in some way, through social media or any way that you choose?
My name existed since 2013. You can Google me on all socials, Twitter, YouTube, Humanity for Gaming, Facebook, Instagram. Anyways, just hit me a follow. Just look me up, and then Refluence. It's at REFLUENCE. Refluence. I'm on everything. So, thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
I hate to say how long I've been using my gamer tag on social media.
I just have been using my real name forever.
All right. Thank you very much. The beginning of the internet. No.
No, me too.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
I was there.
I gotta go.
And
bye, man. Thanks for
Thank
stopping
you so
in.
much.
yeah, we're about to head out.
Yep.
Now, Mia, I think, may not be here because she was just going to hold the stream down.
Yeah,
so,
she's doing the
Shale,
Twitch
I think
stream.
it's time for
So
you to take
thanks
it out.
thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate all the watching. Appreciate the new subscriptions. And we'll see you again next weekend. Take care of each other. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.